Ba-dum-bum-bum. 1, 2, 3, 3. All right. Rest your instruments down, find your choir spot. Rock on, good job.
Good morning. Good morning and thank you. Superintendent Moore, members of the Board of Education, Mayor Cantor, Town Council members, Representative Slapp, Senator Bai, Executive Cabinet members, faculty, staff, and students. Welcome to our annual Convocation. My name is Scott Dunn, the principal of Wolcott Elementary School, and I'm delighted to provide you with some welcoming greetings as we enter the new school year. We hope you enjoyed the musical selections performed by our Wolcott musicians as you entered the auditorium this morning, and the performance you will enjoy right now.
I don't see Mr. Rome. Oh well, we should get warmed up. Give me an E flat. 1, 2, ready, go. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Okay, now we're gonna do two-part round. 1, 2, ready, go. Do, re, do, re, sol, la, si, do, ti, la, sol, fa, si, re, do. Good job. Sit down.
How's your summer been?
It was great. So I was on my way to a Wolfpack game, but I wasn't watching where I was going, so I bumped into a trash can, and then a magical Gatorade bottle fell out and hit me on the head, and then said it would grant me 3 wishes.
Oh my gosh, what did you wish for?
Well, first I wanted to wish for 1,000,000 more wishes, but they said I couldn't do that because of budget cuts. So I'm waiting to say them for just the right things.
I'm bored. We should play a game or something.
Yeah, I wish Mr. Rome were here to help us play that game.
Oh boy, sure is nice to sleeping out in the woods. Nothing better than camping. All that fresh air, fresh morning. Hey, wait a minute, this isn't the Musquamaket campgrounds. What are you? Oh no, did I forget about something? Shannon, what's going on?
Well, you see, I accidentally wished you here.
You wished me here.
Yeah.
What do you mean you wished me here?
So during my summer vacation, I was at a Wolfpack game, and I bumped into a trash can, and a magical Gatorade bottle granted me 3 wishes. So now you're here.
Okay, all right. Well, it's probably a good thing you did that, actually. What exactly do you want to do?
Well, I wanted you to help us play that game. You know, Alabama gal.
Oh yeah, I can help you do that.
But I really wish you had your banjo to make it even better.
Hey,
Oops.
Shannon, you just wasted another wish.
Oopsie.
All right, well that's okay. We can play the game. Raise your hand if you want to play Alabama Gal. Okay, you. Let's go. It's just that easy in real life too. Okay, that was pretty good. Let's get down to business. We've got some work to do here. Let's go over our... Shannon, what's up?
Well, you know how everyone here is dressed so very nicely?
Yes.
And how you're dressed in those dirty old camping clothes?
Well, yeah, but I can't do anything
Well,
about
I
that.
really wish you had a nice white shirt instead of those dirty old camping clothes.
Oh, no. Do you realize you just wasted your third wish?
What? No, I didn't. This is why I hate budget cuts.
All right, let's have that F again, please, Mr. Garrick. Let's hum that note together. Go. Okay, now hum that.
Yonder come day, day is a breaking. Yonder come day, oh my soul.
Thank you to our Wolcott friends for that wonderful performance, which doesn't happen by accident. It's the hard work and dedication of our musicians, but also, if we can give a round of applause for the two people that made this possible, our music teachers, Mr. Dan Luongo and Mr. Jeff Rohn. Good to go. As our students quietly exit, we'll continue with the program. For teachers and leaders, New Year's resolutions are not made in January, but rather at the beginning of the school year, as we jump back in, energized and reflective on doing what is right for kids. This is a time to think about attempting something different, something daring, something unique, all in the spirit of influencing the lives of children and their learning. What an impactful time of year, for sure. Last week, we welcomed our new teachers to the district at the New Teacher Luncheon. I wore one of my suits and a fancy tie in the hopes of making a great first impression. On the way home, still in my suit, I went to the grocery store to pick up some items for my family. As I was standing in line at checkout, a woman was staring at me. This is not something that usually happens to Scott P. Dunn. I'm not kidding. You might be laughing a little too much on that one. She smiled and stated that she liked my pin, the one that I'm wearing today, showcasing the West Hartford Public Schools logo. She asked me about the pin, and I responded of its origin. Her response was immediate, and it went something like this: "Oh, West Hartford." Her response was one of sincerity, excitement, and praise, and maybe a bit of envy. She clearly held the district in high regard. What makes people like the woman at the grocery store respond in such a way about our district? There are so many reasons, from the focus on professional growth through our CSI workshops, the resources we have available to us to support our students, and our vision of clear paths, bright futures, and no limits. But in addition to those admirable traits that make our district one to admire and one to replicate, it is the people, you, us, that make this district what it is. Our speakers this morning, regardless of position, will focus on supporting all students and the role of teachers in a child's life, the catalyst for excitement in learning. Indeed, our impact on students, their academics, and social-emotional well-being are immeasurable and are of paramount importance, and we assume such responsibility with honor, love, and pride. But let us not forget the impact of supporting each other as colleagues throughout the journey of supporting our students. I respect and love the talented and caring faculty and staff at Wolcott School, and their dedication to students is inspiring. But what I also admire and respect about my faculty and staff is their commitment to each other. Teaching is not easy, and if it were, more people would do it. Some days are hard, and at Wolcott we call those days non-preferred days. We really do. But the vast majority of school days are filled with joy and satisfaction. The journey in supporting a student may come with some bumps along the way, but having colleagues who support and praise each other make our calling even more meaningful. This work has another level of indelible meaning when we take care of each other. No doubt you are thinking of a colleague in your school building who cares for you, supporting you in your quest to, as the poster in our superintendent's office reads, do all the good that you can. Let's continue to be there for each other as we clear those paths towards bright futures with no limits for our students. Supporting each other in this profession is just another reason why we have the reputation we do in West Hartford, as evidenced by the woman's response in the grocery store. I wish for you a wonderful year filled with new learning, stories of student success, and opportunities as we support each other together in this most important profession. Thank you. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Rosina Haskins, Director of Continuing Education and Diversity Advancement.
What a great way to kick off today's program. I think our students are just standing outside in the hall. Let's give them another resounding applause. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to our music teachers, all of our teachers who bring out the best, the magic, and our talented youngsters. Wolcott Principal Scott Dunn, thank you for being the whole school for today's convocation and showcasing just part of what makes Wolcott Elementary so special. The 3 R's of Wolcott's mantra are respectful, responsible, and ready to learn. So I thank your students for making the sun rise in my soul today and for reminding me to be kind to parents and to teachers too. So welcome everyone to a celebration of a new year. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to address you this morning for the opening convocation of the 2018-2019 school year. And also special thanks to Conner Principal Julio Duarte and his entire hardworking team for welcoming us into your beautiful school. On behalf of the entire executive team and administrative team, we are so pleased to welcome new and returning teachers. We find that the West Hartford Public Schools honors many special traditions year after year because they are legacies of something we hold on to with pride. It has been our practice over the years to come together as a district, community, and family to bring in the new year with renewed energy, hope, and pride. So today is the start of my 12th year here in the district, and it all started right here for me. Not right here on stage, but here at Conard High School. And I feel as honored today as I felt in 2007 when I got to stand up and be introduced as a new member of the West Hartford Public Schools with my colleagues who started with me. So as Mr. Dunn said, last Thursday, we welcomed over 60 new members to our district family at our new teacher orientation program. The day's events are really meaningful and engaging because they allow new members to become acquainted with our mission, our goals, initiatives, support structures, and with veteran teachers and with each other. The luncheon is a fun time when our principals try to one-up each other as they boast about their schools, and they boast about their staff, all of you. So we are pleased to welcome this year's competitive pool of selected professionals who chose West Hartford Public Schools, and I know our children and families will be thrilled that we chose them. They will no doubt clear paths to provide access to opportunities for our special youngsters. And I don't mean to speak about them as if they're not in the room, so at this time, I would like to invite our new colleagues to stand and be recognized and remain standing. Fantastic, right? So, outstanding. So in keeping with our special convocation, remain standing, new teachers, keeping with our special, they'll know what to do next year. Can I please ask those who have reached between 25 and 29 years of service to stand and be recognized with them? Look at that. Please remain standing and be joined by those with 30 to 34 years of service. Will anyone with 35 or more years of service please stand and be celebrated? Wow, that is outstanding. Okay, I think that's it. The last time I did this, I lost track, and I called out a random number like 75 years of service. I do recall that a social studies teacher actually stood up. So, as those new and veteran teachers have taken their seats, if you are seated next to one of them, please give him, her, them a handshake, fist bump, or a high five. Okay, so I should also add this notable fact. Superintendent Moore pointed out last week, this year, for the first time in 22 years, we have no new principals. Isn't that fantastic, too? However, I do want to recognize a few new district administrators. Lori Foote Mitchell is returning home to West Hartford to serve as guidance department supervisor. Our very own Sarah Isaacs has joined Hall High School as an assistant principal. Similarly, our own Tor Fisk has joined Conard High School as an assistant principal. And we're pleased to welcome Melissa Cook, who is already getting settled into her new role as People Service Department supervisor. Let's give a round of applause to them as well. So congratulations on behalf of the executive team, and thank you for choosing the field of education and for your decision to do life's hardest work and most important work and incredibly rewarding work right here in West Hartford. It makes me proud to work among all of you as we preserve the institutional memory of what makes us great. And speaking of which, I'd be remiss if I didn't do this. I want to take a brief moment to thank my colleagues who serve in some capacity on the Equity and Diversity Council or have made significant contributions to the challenging and powerful work to build our cultural competence and our capacity to create systemic equity. If you are a member of the EDC or have been involved on an EDC subcommittee or have made contributions, please stand and just give a wave so people can see who you are and where you are. Wow. I invite all of you to find out how you can channel your own passion toward the work of the EDC. As you can see, they are a small and mighty force, but to steal a line from music artist Fabulous, we're a force all by ourselves, but we're a movement when we're together. So let's figure out how we can move the needle so that each and every student is leveraged for the best life chances, barrier-free access to opportunities, and bright futures regardless of their DNA, who they love, the language they speak, or where they lay their heads at night. There's a tremendous amount of greatness in the work that we do, but there's still so many stones that we cannot leave unturned. Our children need you. And I'll ask of all of you, as I asked the administrators last week, if it is not us, then who? And if it is not now, then when? Remember, we signed up to return each year to inspire and prepare all students to realize their potential and enhance our global community. Thank you. So as we have honored our frontline educators, we must also be cognizant of all the work that goes on behind the scenes. There are 7 women and men who constitute the Board of Education. They volunteer their time to serve in this critical community role. The long nights of advocacy, debate, thoughtful deliberation around tough decisions have made long-lasting differences in the lives of our students, and they have improved the conditions for our educators. Our next speaker, Mark Zydanowicz, serves on the board. Further, his selfless, brave, and decorated service to our country in the Connecticut Army National Guard reflects a long record of humble humanitarian work to improve and save lives. It is truly a great honor for me to introduce Mark Zydanowicz.
Wow, thank you. First time in front of educators speaking. I've done it in front of military 3-star generals. So I just want to assure you there are no red marks on here. All the spellings are correct, so we're good there. I'm very humbled to be here this morning. In the past, this honor has always been reserved for the chair. So I want to personally thank our chair, Cheryl Greenberg, for this opportunity. I also have the distinct pleasure of introducing the rest of the members of the Board of Ed that are here. Lorna Thomas Farquharson, Dave Palyuk, Deb Poland, and also have the privilege of the rest of the elected officials. Town Council, our Mayor, Sherry Cantor, is here. And I don't see any others? I don't see any others. Our Town Clerk, Essie LeBreau. Our Town Manager, Matt Hart. and our state officials, Senator Beth Bai and Representative Derek Slapp. So in preparing for tonight, I had to, or this morning, I had to say it a few times in front of my daughter, and she said, Dad, I don't like the part about me in there. Take it out, please. Not in front of the teachers. And I'm like, honey, I think it really plays well. I just want to give them a perspective. And she goes, no, Dad, please take it out. So after a little debate, Dad has to do what Dad has to do, and I left it in. So I woke up this morning, and she had to go out early for her web crew at Hall. And she wrote a little note. And she said, good luck, Dad. You're going to kill it. Love you, Jenna. So I just had to share that with you. So she's into it. So, but anyway, she's going to kill me for this. So do not tell her if you have her in school. There are many distinctions and statistics I can talk about this morning regarding what great schools we have. And more often than not, our high schools get most of the accolades. This past year, both Hall and Conard received gold medals from the U.S. News and World Report ranking of American schools. There were 500 awarded out of 29,000 schools. We ranked next to each other, 443rd and 444th, nationally, and 11th and 12th in the state. However, when one digs deeper, we look closer at the comprehensive high schools, taking away selective academies and magnet schools with entrance exams. We rank 6th and 7th in the state and in the top 100 public high schools in the country. Now, although our high schools often receive the honors, you must know that it's our school system that gets recognized and our students who are the real winners. Just like building a house, plans and permits are required before you can start the foundation. You need a framer to build the bones of the house, roofers and painters to make sure the house is protected, plumbers, electricians to ensure the lights are on and the water flows, masons so a fire can be lit, finish carpenters to dress all the details, and painters to add color. And then there's the specialty trades, like landscape designers who plant those permanent roots in your home, and the pavers who provide a smooth pathway to your house. Only after a well-executed plan with milestones met and tested can the general contractor hand over the keys to the owners. But so what? What does that mean? That means high schools can't take all the credit. Sorry, Julio and Dan. Everyone in this room, from kindergarten to kitchens, secondary grades to special services, professional staff to paras, from art to admin, music to math, PE to physics, you all own a piece of their success. So whenever our schools get recognized, and they often do, know each and every one of you have equal share in their success, and that you've provided one of the best educations available and provided our students the foundation, plans, and tools to exceed with their next steps in life. Whether it be college, military, trade, or the workforce, know they came from one of the very best educations available. Go ahead, let's hear it. This past June, I had the honor of speaking at graduation, and I met with students to get a feel and understanding about the last 4 years. But it came by no surprise, and you'll understand this as well. The theme of the discussion led to and focused on the teachers and staff. They spoke about the great teachers they had, not just in high school, but from the middle schools and elementary schools. How you taught them about themselves, the cultural understanding, inclusiveness, and imparting some life lessons, and even how you remembered everyone's names. They expressed how great teacher relationship is and how you tried to make a school a better place. Why do I mention this? Because they all recognized how a house is built. And they remembered not only the 4 years of high school, but the school experience as a whole. And not only just a house, they remember a well-built home. I also like to provide my perspective as a dad. I think most parents have similar worries for our kids. When our kids entered kindergarten or even middle school, we wondered and worried if they'll have fun and succeed academically. And even when my daughter, my oldest, and first entering high school, I was worried for her. Freshman year can be tough on kids. I was worried that she'd get lost in transition between middle school and high school. Will she fit in? Will she find great teachers and staff? Will she find her way with little stumbles? All of which keeps parents overthinking and up at night. As teachers and staff, your professionalism, leadership, and great examples couldn't have been more appropriate. From the first day of kindergarten, middle school, and high school, as a dad, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being such a great and caring staff. I know many of you personally, professionally, or just a nod in the hallway when I visit. I know from experience how truly wonderful you all are. All my worries were for naught. It's a story I repeat often to new parents entering our school system with the same trepidations. A famous coach, John Wooden, once said, "You haven't taught unless they've learned." So as you go into another house building season, I'd like to share something with you I learned in the military about building. The 3 C's of leadership: competence, commitment, and character. 3 equal but required traits. None more important than the other. Leadership is both an art and a science and requires practice to hone. But mastering the 3 C's will provide a foundation upon which to grow and build. Now go start those foundations and add on as needed to finish those houses, but more importantly, thank you in advance for building such wonderful homes.
Thank you, Mark, for being such a strong part of our foundation. And thank you for your dedicated service to this community and your military sacrifice for our nation. We are all deeply gratified for that. Our next speaker with a really cool name is Shyloh Peak, formerly of Wolcott Elementary School and soon to be, in 2 days, a grade 6 Bristow middle school student. She will share her narrative as a West Hartford Young Scholar and leader. Shyloh attended Wolcott School since kindergarten and is seen as a leader in many regards. Her contributions to the school community, including organizing town meetings, serving as a member of the editorial board, and participation in book buddies. Last year, Shyloh held a leadership role in the play Hamlet that was performed in her class. Principal Dunn says that Shyloh is respected by her peers and the staff for her kindness, and that she embraces diversity with sincerity and enthusiasm. Please give a warm welcome to Shyloh Peak.
Hi, my name is Shyloh Peak. I'm a former student of Wolcott Elementary School. My experience at Wolcott was amazing. Wolcott is like no other school. We're full of people with different sizes and shapes and colors, but we're all one big family. On Monday mornings when you come into school, we always start off the day with Harambe. We get together and listen to drums and a poem and learn about the events of that week. Then on Friday, we have town meeting where we celebrate students' voices in writing, art, and music. It's great. It's a great place. My last year at Wolcott was the best year of my life so far. So many great memories. Camp Jewel. I climbed a difficult wall. I went on a tiring hike. I saw a big snake that made me cry. I saw some birds that scared me too. I don't like birds. But the food was great, and being away from my family was really great. And being outdoors was amazing too. I'll never forget it. Editorial board. I was in charge of choosing students' writing to celebrate at town meeting each week. I was reading other students' writing, introducing writers, and going into classrooms and announcing the good news to students. I'm really loud, so I'm good at that. My class performed Hamlet. It was scary, but fun. I was a narrator, so I got to tell a lot of jokes and laugh and even tease my fellow narrator. Appropriately, of course. It was hard to memorize all those lines, but it made me more confident to speak in front of people and not to be afraid. My teachers at Walker were so helpful, so kind. They taught me a lot. I was kind of a pain in the butt, but I learned to be more respectful and to listen. I still am a pain in the butt, but don't show it as much. My 5th grade teacher, Mr. Dix. I made fun of him a lot. He can't dance. He can't sing. He's not as funny as he thinks he is. And sometimes he can have a black hole for a heart. But he boosted up my confidence a lot. He turned me into a writer. He respected me and he made school fun every day. I'd say that I was going to miss him, but that would make him happy, so no way. Mr. Dunn was my principal. He's a very kind man. He's a funny person. He made me feel safe at school every day. I'll miss him. I'm going to miss Walker School so much. Not just one thing, everything. Walker School made me the person I am today. I'm gonna miss all my friends as we go out to different places, but I'm looking forward to making new friends at Bristow, starting off Wednesday. But I wish summer was a little bit longer, and I bet you think that too. And to my new teachers, well, hello there. My name is Shyloh Peak. I'm loud and energetic and ready to learn. Thank you.
That was well done. Principal Dunn, you were so right when you said that I would be very impressed once I met Shyloh. If that is a pain in the butt, I'll take one of those all the time. I can't wait to hear about all the great things that she goes on to do at Bristow Middle School. So one of the most nail-biting times of the year for me, aside from this morning, is that moment right before the official announcement of the Teacher of the Year. Hats off to the selection committee, by the way. The process is rigorous, and the caliber of teacher nominated, especially those who go on to become finalists, make it such a difficult decision for the selection committee. So today, I have the honor to share the stage with our 2017-2018 Teacher of the Year, Luis Ramirez. Luis will introduce the next West Hartford Teacher of the Year. Welcome, Luis Ramirez.
Thank you so much, and good morning, and welcome back. I would like to thank my friends and colleagues at Smith, and everyone around the district, including students and families that supported me all of last year. The town of West Hartford has given me many opportunities to grow both personally and professionally. This experience gave me the chance to meet so many incredible people in the district, and I had the privilege of serving on the Professional Learning and Evaluation Committee. There is so much that happens on so many levels throughout the district by incredible educators such as yourself. Last year's recognition gave me the chance to push myself out of my comfort zone and challenge me in many ways. Today, we are delighted to honor Sonia Stemmer, team leader and language arts teacher at Sedgwick Middle School. After meeting Sonia at the end of last year, I quickly realized her passion and commitment to teaching all students and building a strong relationship with their families and her colleagues. Sonia is going into her 23rd year of teaching, and this will be her 7th year in West Hartford. She started her teaching career at Holy Cross High School in Waterbury, then later taught at the middle school level in Bristow, before coming to West Hartford. Sonia shared that her father was a big influence in her decision to become a teacher. After she saw firsthand the impact he had on his students while he was teaching in Trumbull, Connecticut. She still remembers how captivating he was with his students and how they looked up to him. He was confident and able to engage with them in a way she had never seen before. As a child, she always loved to read, and she used it as a healthy escape that helped shape her curious imagination about people and relationships. During our meeting, she proudly spoke about her family. She has been married to her husband, Frank, for 19 years, and they have 3 beautiful children. Adam is 17, Jacob is 13, and their daughter, Natara, is 8 years old. Sonia enjoys reading, she loves musical theater, and she enjoys road trips with her family. Sonia has had the opportunity to have a rich and diverse experience as a teacher, and she recognizes a great deal of support she has had from her colleagues and administrators. She went on to say that Sedgwick has a strong representation of staff members with a diverse background, and they are all willing to do what it takes in order to support children. It truly takes a village. She shared that Sedgwick has been an amazing place to teach because of the caring and warm culture that is fostered throughout the building. Frank Cardona, vice principal of Sedgwick, shared that Sonia's personality reflects her teaching style. She is caring, intelligent, high energy, and emotionally passionate. Melissa Behrens, vice principal of Sedgwick, also shared that Sonia's classroom lessons are interactive and engaging, and she treats everyone fairly. She sees the individual child and knows when to reach out. She is attuned to students' needs. Andrew Clapsaddle, principal of Sedgwick, shared that students don't want to disappoint her. She makes a difference, and she works hard with the whole child. She also reaches out and is willing to support all Sedgwick students, not just those in her classroom. He goes on to say that she has strong leadership skills and has a no-nonsense approach. Sonia has the ability to foster strong connections with students and families, and she meets them where they're at. Sonia's administrators all shared that she tirelessly gives her time, energy, her heart, her whole self. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Teacher of the Year for the 2018-19 school year, Sonia Stemmer.
Thank you. When I was preparing for today, on Friday, the space looked very different. So pardon my gasp. Louis, thank you for those kind words. And to Melissa and Frank and Andrew, thank you. I am very, very blessed to be in this district. It was a district that I chose because of what it does, what all of you do every day for children. I am consistently impressed. And the results are stunning when we see our students come back. You are remarkable humans. And I hope that every day you walk into your classrooms and you know how truly loved you are by the children who sit in front of you. Even on those days that perhaps they don't show it in the way that they should. To the entire administrative and executive team, thank you for the opportunity. And to my Sedgwick family, you truly are the village. I could not be the teacher I am without the constant support and dedication that you model every day. So thank you. And finally, to my family, who sits here patiently. They are the reason I teach. My children's input informs the way that I treat children. And my husband's patience reminds me of how important it is to appreciate the people around you who help keep you strong. So thank you all. finally, I would like to thank my dad. Lewis mentioned that my father is a retired history teacher, and he is the reason that I teach. His passion for his kids and the impact he had on their lives is my inspiration. When I was in middle school and our vacations didn't line up, my dad would take me to school and I would get to sit in his classroom. It was in those moments that I saw my father differently. It was the way he interacted with his students. Class after class, visit after visit, his candor, his humor, his honesty, and his compassion were there. When I finally began teaching, he gave me a piece of advice. He said, if you want to reach your students, they have to know you really hear them. Teaching, after all, is an exercise in hope. An exercise in hope. I had no idea what he meant. Hope is a funny thing, because when we consider it on its own, it doesn't have much strength. We hope for things often beyond our control. We say things like, I hope it doesn't rain tomorrow, even though we've watched the weather and clearly it's going to rain. Or my husband and Jeff Sousa, who every year hope desperately that the Mets will make a run for the pennant. And they know full well that May will come. Then there are the hopes that are wishful thinking. I can hope that the beautiful dress I bought when I was 26 will fit me. Really? My relationship with oatmeal cookies should tell me otherwise. Or we hope that we win the lotto, knowing we've bought 3 tickets in our entire lifetime. So those wishful thinking, hopeful things didn't make sense to me when my father said, teaching is an exercise in hope. And then I considered my children and those deep feelings of hope that I have for them. I hope that my students know that they are enough. I hope that my children know that they are enough, particularly in a world that will quickly tell them that they are not. So how do I do this? Do I love them? Do I give them the information that they need? Do I encourage their failures as well as their successes? The answer to that is yes. And that's the hope my dad was talking about. Hope with legs. That's what I like to call it. My daughter thinks that's ridiculous. But hope with legs means it has some strength and some action behind it. It's the same with our students. We want so much for our students. We have hopes for them, and they have hopes for us. As teachers, we are incredibly lucky that we participate in this exercise in hope every day. In a world where each soundbite chronicles the hopelessness of the human condition, we counter with the message to our students that every day brims with possibilities. In light of the myriad of obstacles we experience in our field, the unseen struggles we know our students carry, we return day after day, year after year, with the undying conviction that we can help our students find their passion and ignite their desire to learn. And we want our students to believe this too. So how do we convince students that they should have hope? How do we model that practice in our own daily lives so that our students confidently invest in themselves and each other? I believe it starts with 2 minutes. It seems like an inconsequential amount of time, I know, but the power of that 2 minutes cannot be underestimated. In that 2 minutes, connections can be made or chasms of divisiveness created. It's all in the way we approach the moment. It's all in the way we connect. Do we stop and really listen? Do we nod in agreement or as a feigned act of interest, all the while distracted by the demands of our own lives or worse? Are we simply passing time, waiting for our turn to talk? Do we really hear the other person? We live in an exciting time where information is at the ready, but it's intermingled with manipulated ideas and filtered responses. So how do we find authenticity then? I believe it's in that 2 minutes. It's in how we listen. In her book, The Republic of Noise, Diana Seneschal wrote of listening that it involves a certain surrender, a willingness to sit with what one doesn't already know. Listening requires us to stretch a little beyond what we know, expect, or want. So listening goes beyond just hoping. By listening, we are acting on the hope and giving opportunity for others to share their hopes with us. As active listeners, we have immense power to facilitate change that is needed and wanted, as our youngest voices cry out to be heard. As both teachers and students, we have a responsibility to learn and practice this valuable skill. Consider for a moment the impact of authentic listening on instruction. We've all done this. Are you listening? Are you paying attention? Our students' response to our questions helps inform our practice. We encourage our students to listen carefully to our questions, to our directions, to each other. We are methodical in our practice when we teach our students to listen in our classrooms. But do we allow our students the opportunity to transfer that skill? Do we let them apply listening in a way that's authentic? More importantly, do we allow ourselves the time or the space to practice it as well? In my work with at-risk youth, repeatedly they shared the same sentiment. They had lost hope. No one really listened. No one seemed to care. I found it interesting that all of their responses were so similar. Thinking about them last year, I asked my 8th graders a similar question. What did they believe was missing from their lives? The response was overwhelmingly consistent. Students felt like they didn't connect in a way with people that they believed to be real. I wondered, in all that we have to connect us, is it maybe preventing us from being authentic? So how do we facilitate change? The solution is challenging, but it seems exciting to attempt. Let's make our schools authentic spaces where there's permission to pause, opportunities to live in each other's new and different ideas, spaces that build a culture of listening. Let's build communities of thinkers as colleagues, students, and peers that acknowledge each other's ideas, honor each other's stories, and accept each other's opinions as being alternatives to our own. What if we took those 2 minutes to listen to the story from a student? Or we encouraged our own students to listen when their peers shared something without fear of judgment, or as colleagues. If we took 2 minutes to foster our connections with each other, we could begin a revolution that redefines our connections. Our revolution would open lines of communication, develop avenues of new thought, and add authenticity to the way we live and think. That is my hope. We need to become the embodiment of the balance we long for in our students and in ourselves. We should be finding the beauty and the value in the process and consciously build classroom environments that celebrate this process, not just the outcomes. For our students, we must emulate the curiosity we wish to foster in them and allow for detours and interruptions that welcome laughter and acceptance into the consciousness of our students. We need to invite hope into our classrooms and into our lives. So let's challenge ourselves this year to take 2 minutes to willingly embrace someone else's words. By building this capacity in our students and amongst our colleagues, there is hope and there will be change. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful school year.
Thank you, Sonia, for that inspiring message. We don't just hope that you'll represent us well, we know you will represent our teachers well. And so thank you and congratulations to you. And thank you, Louis, for your work to represent the West Hartford Public Schools as well. Thank you, Sonia, for giving us the gift of time, 2 minutes. I'll try to practice that. So it is now my honor to introduce our Superintendent of Schools. Whether you are new to the district or you've been here for over 75 years, you can't deny that Superintendent Tom Moore, is a dynamic leader who is unafraid to confront tough issues head-on that get in the way of opportunities for our students or those that place limits on our educators' abilities to be champions for our children. He expects nothing less than equity and excellence. His deep commitment to the West Hartford Public Schools, the West Hartford community, and proven effective outcomes are the results of a leader daring greatly. Please join me in welcoming Superintendent Moore.
So I want to read something. Some of the last words written by John McCain. What an ingrate I would be to curse the fate that concludes the blessed life I've led. I prefer to give thanks to those blessings and my love to the people who blessed me with theirs. The bell tolls for me. I knew it would. So I tried as best I could to stay a part of the main. I hope those who mourn my passing, and even those who don't, will celebrate as I celebrate a happy life lived in imperfect service to a country made of ideals, whose continued service is the hope of the world. And I wish all of you great adventures, good company, and lives as lucky as mine. So John McCain passed away this weekend. What's been most surprising to me is when I talk to people or read something quickly, and how often it starts with, I didn't always agree with him, but have we really gotten to the point we need to say that? That we need to explain, I don't agree with everything they say, but, yeah, no kidding. I don't agree with everything I say. I swear, I hear it and I'm like, you don't think that, shut up, this is good. So why do we backtrack? Why do we go in the middle with so many things? McCain didn't live his life in the middle. You know, he says he learned to love his country while a prisoner in another, and learned about service. And that really is one of the key lessons I want to take today is, when do we learn about our own service? When do we learn what we give back? Do we love our country enough to stand as beacons of hope for these kids that are going forward? I have kind of 2 things I want to talk about today. And today you'll notice in your program, there's another speaker. For many of you, you're thinking, thank God. For some, you're thinking, he's not just going to talk as long as normal and then turn it over. I saw our speaker speak this past beginning of June, end of May, when we have a ceremony for those students of ours who have decided to join the military. It's one of my favorite things we do. And I saw him speak, and I knew I'd want to be talking about leadership this year. And I listened to him speak, and I thought to myself, God, I hate how much better he is than me. I mean, I just really despise it. Because this is the one thing I can do well in the world, according to myself. You don't have to agree, remember. I don't agree with everything he says, but... And yet there's somebody that does it so much better and represents so much more of heroism, valor, those American ideals that I want to live up to, that I want my kids to live up to, which gets to kind of this whole difficulty with finding any theme. Because I've spent the past 3 months in my own midlife crisis, which, as Rick would point out, being 48 years old, that's remarkably optimistic of me to consider it midlife. He thinks I should have added about 30 years ago. But the idea, the reason for this, is I look at you, and you have no idea how much I owe the teachers of West Hartford. Because about 10 days ago, and I share this with some people in the room right now, had this experience just a couple weeks ago. And so 10 days ago, I dropped my son off after his career in West Hartford Public Schools at the University of North Carolina. And when I say you have no idea what I owe to you, those that taught him, those that are here, I mean that. Because he got a full scholarship. Yes! So as I'm in the south of France someday, I'll say, thank you, West Hartford. No. That's not why. It doesn't hurt, but that's not why. It's because of the things I learned from him that I've instilled by all of you. Because as parents and as teachers, we do one thing. We try to make sure that when we set them off in the world, they're ready. It's an awesome task. Once that task is kind of removed, it does create an identity issue. I've spent the past 18 years as the father of my oldest son. And to know not only, well, I won't see him every day, I mean, as part of his program, he won't be home summers or anything else. So dropping him off was a real end to some things. To some things. And so you wonder, again, what am I here for? And it really has an impact. I mean, I'm driving through the backwoods of North Carolina, lost, thinking maybe the answer's here somewhere. It's not. There's very few answers there. Up to New Hampshire, go golfing, talk to people who have gone through this before. And then I spoke to Jack 3 days after he was there. And there's never been anyone more happy to be at college. My wife and I were talking about, do you think there's anyone happier in their life at this moment than he is? And he said something to me, the first real conversation we had had since he had been there. And he said, you know what's the best, Dad? And I said, what? And he said, nobody knows me. Nobody knows where I'm from. Remember, he did have the superintendent as his dad. Nobody knows me. Nobody knows where I'm from. And I can be the best version of myself from now on. And it's just like, yeah, I did a little ought to, and, you know. But I'm like, no, that's the lesson here. It's new. The year's new. It's an exciting start. These kids are new. You can be the version you want to be. I can be the version I want to be. This is my 5th year as superintendent, but in all honesty, since I had that conversation, it's felt like my first. I really want to be the best district, the best version of ourselves, the best teachers. And so what does that mean for us? What does that mean on a given day? First, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our partnership. Where's Teresa McEwen? Teresa, over there, president of the WHEA. Teresa continues a long tradition of us partnering together and not being adversarial, but instead constantly talking about what can we do for our kids? What can we do better? And that's gone on with people that have been before her, from Ted to Dave, and it continues, and we meet regularly. That partnership is so important because everything in education is going to be about partnership. One of the two themes I want to talk about this year is family engagement and welcoming schools. And what does that mean? Welcoming schools. Rosine and I have had a lot of talks about this. What does it mean to truly partner, to truly engage? And it hit me that there's kind of two versions of visitors to our home. And that classroom of yours is your living room. It's your kitchen. And there's those visitors that come in that we put out the good dishes for. By the way, that's an idea whose time is past, the good dishes. To impress them that we could afford at some point good dishes. And we take all of our other stuff and we shove it in closets and in drawers. And my wife walks behind people making sure, no, I'll get that, so things don't explode out of a drawer when they open it. Because our life is hidden. Our life is hidden from those guests. And then there's those guests who are over so much that they just blend in, that they become a part of who we are. You know, your kids' friends. Now, my son's best friend, who I'll walk in, they'll have been playing basketball, and I'll see him making a sandwich with his hand in my pickles. Pickles that I love, that I search out specially. And he's like, hey, Mr. Moore, you want a pickle? I'm like, no, those are yours now, thanks. That kind of, he's just home. Or my daughter's friends, who just speak in the basement or in the room with me there. And you can't unhear things they say. They're just so there that you just want to say, no, see, I'm here. But it doesn't matter, they just say it anyway, because they're home, because they're welcome, because they're relaxed. Do we have that relationship with our parents? Does our community feel at home here? Can they put up their feet and tell us what's wrong? Do we really see them as our partners, or are we putting out the fine china? We need to stop putting out the fine china. If you really want to know these kids, you need to know when their dirty hands are in the pickle jar that, okay, what's really going on, other than you're hungry, talk, find out things. Because I ended up having conversations about college choices with people, things that they needed, where they were just sitting there waiting for me to ask, I realized. That's what we need to do when we welcome our families. That's what we need to do when we welcome our kids. We need to really be just together. Get rid of the fineries, and instead really know each other. Really be at home. Even say the things that can't be unsaid. But be truthful. Be hopeful. Our community needs that. Our kids need that. More than ever. They need people they can trust. The other thing I want to talk about, and I'm not going to do the talking, is leadership. Because you're our greatest leaders. You're the ancestors. Not just of your own kids that you're raising in your homes, but the kids that sit in your classes. You're the ancestors that your descendants will speak about. Because one of the other things that really made me feel good is I went to somebody's wedding who's here in this room, who was one of my former students. And in that group was a bunch of my former students who talked to me about how old I was. It made them feel far worse when I told them, yeah, but you do know that you're older now than I was when I taught you. But hearing about their lives, what they did, and them bringing up things from class. I had kids talking about Diderot to me. Remember when you talked about that? And I was like, no, but good, I'm glad you remember it. Those are my descendants. They get to go forth. They get to lead. They get to be the America that can be a beacon for the world and live the life we hope they lead. I hope you take the opportunity as you begin the year to really think about what you want your legacy to be. We have a special thing going in West Hartford. I go so many places where people talk to me about how do you do it. I'm going to steal one thing from somebody. Chris Emden, Paul and I saw speak this summer. He's a professor of calculus, actually, at Columbia, another dynamic speaker, who talked about faith-based education. Now, if any of you have been tracking my church attendance for the past 30 years, two things. One, you know that's odd coming from me. And second, don't tell my mom. Faith-based education. I want us to be a faith-based system. Faith-based. I've had an awakening. We need to be faith-based. What's it mean? What's faith? Faith is belief in something you can't see. That's what I mean by faith-based. I want you to believe those moments when your kids are acting in ways that you despise, that you don't teach them to be that way, that are driving you crazy. I want you to believe that underneath them is that child you want them to be. I want you to believe in their best self. I want you to believe they can do the work. Don't believe they can't. Don't believe this isn't for them. Believe in who they are. It's there. Have faith in your kids. Have faith in their parents, because I've talked about this before. They chose West Hartford for a reason. Have faith. Be faith-based leaders. Let people know you have faith in them. Every minute, every day. That's the way you lead. You expect kids to be what you hope they can be, because you know it's in them, because you have faith. Every day. You get a fresh start Wednesday. New people, new kids, have faith in them. They don't know you, you don't know them. Make them their best selves. Now, to talk more about leadership, as I said, I have somebody here that, to be honest with you, I don't even think I've earned the right to introduce him. I haven't earned that right. But fortunately, I have a couple people that do earn that right continuously. And I have one person in particular that I'd like to introduce our speaker. I have to write down his actual title, because I call him things way different than this. Please join me in welcoming Command Sergeant Major of the 169th Regiment, Paul Vycinas.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. And good morning, welcome back, and Happy New Year. It's wonderful to see all of you, but more especially, it is a genuine privilege and an honor this morning to introduce our guest speaker for today's convocation. Paul Buddy Bucha was born on August 1st, 1943, to Colonel and Mrs. Paul Bucha. Happy belated birthday, sir. As a child, he lived abroad in both Germany and Japan, and he graduated from high school in Ladue, Missouri, a suburb of St. Louis, and immediately entered the United States Military Academy at West Point. Paul received his Bachelor of Science in 1965, graduating academically in the top 2% of his West Point class, number 2 in the Military Order of Merit, and a 2-time All-American captain of the swim team. Immediately upon graduation from West Point, Paul attended Stanford University Graduate School of Business, receiving his MBA in 1967 while completing airborne and ranger training between academic years. After Stanford, Paul reported for duty with the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, to prepare for deployment to Vietnam as part of Operation Eagle Thrust in November of 1967. Captain Bucha was given command of Delta Company, 3rd Battalion, 187th Infantry. And during his time in Vietnam, Captain Bucha was awarded, among other decorations, the Bronze Star with Valor and Oak Leaf Cluster, the Purple Heart, and the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration awarded for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his own life, above and beyond the call of duty while engaged in armed conflict. And for that, I want to pause. Upon his return to the United States, he reported for assignment as an assistant professor of managerial economics at West Point. He resigned his Army commission in 1972, and from 1972 until the early 2000s, Paul had a prolific and successful career in business and real estate, spearheading efforts for major corporations both nationally and internationally. In addition to his corporate activities, Paul has been a frequent lecturer to numerous colleges, corporations, political figures, and military leaders of all branches on the subject of honor and leadership. He has spoken at Harvard, Princeton, and other leading educational institutions, as well as major corporations, such as J.P. Morgan Chase, NBC Universal, and Frito-Lay, to name only a few. Paul remains actively connected to the U.S. Army National Guard and Reserve Forces, giving motivational speeches on leadership and presentations across the country, as well as at all 4 national military academies. Proving no stage too small, Paul volunteered his time this past May to speak to Connerton Hall seniors at a ceremony to honor their military induction from among our own class of 2018 graduates. Paul is a past president of the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, and he was the founder of the Congressional Medal of Honor Foundation, currently serving as its director. He serves on boards of numerous charitable and public service organizations. He and his wife Cynthia have 4 children and 9 grandchildren, and he draws a connection to our West Hartford community through his daughter Becky, who coached girls lacrosse here at Conard this past year. As Tom mentioned, having heard Buddy speak last spring, his message was so powerful and so inspirational that there was no question that we needed to bring him here today to this event to speak to all of you. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Captain Paul Buddy Bucha.
Thank you very much. Please sit down. I accept that applause on behalf of my men. And my wife always tells me to warn you, I have PTS, so periodically I might be telling a joke and start crying. So I just want to make sure you know that. But I have these men. 164 of them were assigned to me before we went to Vietnam. At one time, there was one person in the company, me. And the colonel thought it would be quite funny if he had me perform everything for my company that everybody else did who had people. So I marched by myself in parades. I saluted the guidon that I was holding. And I got to say dismissed because I was the only one left on the field at that time. But the reason this is important, this group of men that were sent to me were a collection of people. And the Army was expanding to go into Vietnam in a big way. The 101st was going, and therefore everybody in the Army had to have more rifle companies. And they did it in a chronological fashion so that the last division was the 101st, which meant all the other divisions had gotten people that they picked. leaving what was left over for the 101st. But then in the 101st, there were 3 brigades. And 2 of those brigades got to fill up with people they picked. And then there were 3 battalions in the 3rd Brigade who got to fill themselves up, except for one company, Delta Company, because we were going to get what was left over. So these men, who earned all kinds of reputations, had come from stockades in the 101st and 82nd Airborne. Those were the good guys. Then there were some others that had degrees in Elizabethan literature and were assigned to an infantry company. Who were they? They were the speechwriters for all the generals who were no longer needed. So they had long careers in the military with no experience whatsoever. And then the final coup de grace was when a group that had failed basic infantry training came in the front door. And in those days, you've heard the rubric of you march and chew gum is what we expect. Not for Delta Company, either or. Either or. Now, why is this important? It's who those men were and what they became. They were the worst. There was no doubt about it. I mean, one man tried to push me down the stairs. I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, if I knock you down the stairs, they'll send me back to the stockade, and I don't have to go to Vietnam with you." I said, "Well, what's wrong with me?" He says, "You've been at Stanford, and we've checked. You coached the swimming team, you taught surfing and scuba. You don't know anything about being in the military." I said, "Yeah, but I'll make a deal with you. If you trust me, I'll bring you home." His response was, "You can't do it." But that's what was on their mind. How could they go with a loser like me when they knew themselves to be losers? And it's a very, very important lesson that comes out of this. That group of losers who everybody else took a pass on, as the war ended, it became acknowledged that they were the highest decorated unit in the history of the Vietnam War. By the way, they were my losers. And when they did what they had to do, they did it together. They helped each other. Just the opposite of what they had been doing in civilian life. And some of them have specialties. Sergeant Lecker, one of the 8 people who couldn't chew gum and march at the same time, I asked him, "What do you do? And where are you from?" He said, "Ducktown, Tennessee." I said, "What do you do in Ducktown, Tennessee?" He said, "I make cars go fast." I said, "What?" He said, "I make cars go fast." I said, "You know something about Jeeps and cars?" He said, "I know a lot about Jeeps and cars. I make them go fast." I took out a staple and put sergeant stripes on him. Stapled to his thing, and I said, "Go to the motor pool, take care of those vehicles, and keep me posted." He disappeared, and from the time he took over, never was there a vehicle in the States or in Vietnam that was in any way malfunctioning. They were perfect because Sergeant Lecker knew what he was doing. And other ones went on, time and time and time, different things would be called on, and they would do things. Like, for example, I sent them out on an ambush, and Sergeant Estrada said, "What do I do?" I said, "Give me 2 tweaks on your handset, and I'll know you're there. And you set the ambush up, and then I'll hear the loud explosion and know you're on your way home." He said, "Got it, sir," and he left. And I hear, ch-ch. And I don't hear anything else. There's no ambush. There's no nothing. And I see them walking back out of the jungle. I said, "Sergeant, what happened? You're supposed to ambush him." He said, "Sir, there's some women and children with that group. I don't have anything bad to do. I don't have a war with the women and children. It's hard enough figuring out why we're here. And, sir, I'm just not going to do that. And I said, it sounds like a good lesson for all of us. And if you take all those little pieces, Sergeant Lecker, this and the others, and you say, what is the lesson here? Don't let anyone ever evaluate the students you're going to be teaching. Do not let them say, that's a loser, and that's a winner. Only you can do that. Because you're the ones that's making leaders out of these kids. Not just students. I go to West Point and I say to them, how many came here to be a football player or a jock? And they all raise their hands. And I said, stand up. And they stand up and I say, that's the dumbest idea you've ever come up with. I can get you a college degree, working out 3 or 4 days a week and sleeping every other time. You won't learn anything, but you get a good degree, and on Saturdays, people will cheer you. You don't have to get up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, run, do push-ups, pull-ups, and have to go to school 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week in college. I say, okay, sit down. How many of you came here to be students? And they're, yeah. And I said, another dumb idea. Well, you don't have to get up at 5 in the morning if you're at Harvard. You can sleep in. As long as your grades are good, no one will bother you. But at West Point, you want to be studying? There's someone yelling and screaming at you all the time. And they're telling you, get up and do this and do that. So that's not a smart idea either. I said, well, how many came here to be Army officers? And they said, that's got to be the magic button. They all jump up and go, yay! I said, the worst idea. OCS, you can become an officer in 6 weeks. Not 4 years. Going to school on Saturdays and every other day during the week except for the Sabbath. That's what happens to you at West Point. And why? Because we are not training jocks, students, or Army officers. We're training leaders of character for their entire lives. You don't get to opt in and opt out. You opt in when you come, and you carry it the rest of your life. And you know, it's interesting. Many of those kids who came here to be jocks choose not to do it. They see something more profound in their future. There are people who come there and say, I just can't afford to put in that much time academically because it takes work for me. So I'm going to have to be satisfied with a B+. But I'm going to be working harder because I'm going to be a leader. And that's the key. That's what people do when they go to college. If a college would just say, or a high school, or an elementary school, what are you trying to do? You say, I want to train them. I want to teach them what it is to be a leader. For me, I hadn't given any leadership talks. I was at the Merchant Marine Academy. I didn't even know where it was, let alone they wanted me to give a speech about the history of the Merchant Marine. It was like 25 years ago. And I worked, and I studied, and I was up for things. And I was sitting on the dais, my wife was next to me, and I'm ready. And there's about 500, 600 people there. And the kid is introducing me and says, and tonight Mr. Bucha will be speaking about the elements of leadership. I went, psst, I'm doing the history. And the kid goes to the microphone and says, not tonight, sir. Tonight, you're doing the elements of leadership. And we wanted to know what you think, not what you might have read someone else thinks. So please, the elements of leadership. He sat down, my thought was, damn. And then it was, damn, I can do this. But more importantly, what are we raising in this country? 21 years old, in front of all these people, and he and his friends knew what they wanted me to do, and they were not going to allow anybody to interfere. And that's why the smile came on and said, I can do this. And I did it. 5 elements of leadership. And that was 25 some. I haven't added one, haven't taken one away. But I want you to remember these because it's critical when you're dealing with your students. First and foremost, the foundation of leadership is integrity. Simple. If people don't trust you, they will not follow. It's as simple as that. And that's difficult because the lowest ranking person in the military, the lowest student that you have, the one that seems to struggle the most, that particular breed of human can identify a fraud in a microsecond. You lie to them, you cut a corner, you say, oh, here, I know this, I know, and you're not telling the truth. By the time you turn around, everybody knows that because that person put the word out. In the military, we call that snuffy. Well, Snuffy's sitting on a rock, a cigarette behind each ear, doesn't smoke, but he can give them away and get something. And he listens to you talk. And he goes, sir, you know where you are? Sure, I know where I am. No, you don't. And he leaves. And you're finished. You could never go back to that group and say, follow me. No, we're not following you anywhere. And that's what's important. It's the ethics that you demonstrate and that you live by, the character that you have. That's what you are being judged on. That's what lasts a lifetime. Long after your teaching of these classes that you teach here are gone. You're still expected to be a leader. And I can tell you why I know this. Right now, I see elements of something that happened to my father when he was an Army officer and I was a young man. The CID told my father that he was a communist and that a senator will announce it the next day, which he did, and said, I have the name of a colonel who is a communist. That was McCarthy talking about my father. And that same fear I see today. I see that today. And I don't know what kids are hearing. Like I heard my dad say, don't worry about it. I am not guilty. And therefore, you go tell the CID, we're going to Horn and Hard Arts. If they'd like to come with us, that would be fine. Since they're trailing us, why not have lunch? My dad. But I have seen that same discrimination that results in fear played out on the streets of America in different corporation places, in schools, in colleges. There is something going on that smacks of that time. And for all of us to pretend it does not is a lie. And therefore, we have to figure out how we respond to this in a substantive way, not in an emotional way. And who can do that better than you? No one. You can teach us about that time and guard against that time coming again because you have integrity and the kids and their parents trust you. Another characteristic of a leader is the most similar. They got to have confidence. You got to be willing to step out in front and say, follow me, judge me. And if you see one fail in front of you, no one wants to go next, but you have to. You have to. You have to have the confidence that you can teach your students they need to have as they lead this country. And I'm telling you, young teenagers, adolescents, are involved in discussions about the future of this country. And you have done your job well because they listen to you and they are articulate in spending and defining the moments before them. So we have integrity and then we got confidence. We have to have competence. You got to know what the hell you're talking about. And my men used to say to me, because we didn't have GPS in the war. And by the way, I'm not sure what happens in the war when you have GPS and the satellite goes boop, 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 and it's off. I don't know what you do. You know, when I was in Ranger training, I said, I can read a map, I can read anything. And I went down to give a speech to them. I said, you guys all have this little beep, beep, beep. They gotta go out sometime. What do you do? I said, you can't read maps. You're waiting on someone clicking your little thing and nothing's happening. Because I know finding a map and having to read it is a real skill set. And I was proud. I happened to be #1 in only one subject at West Point, and that was it, map reading, which made my men very happy. But if you know how to do things, if you really know what you can do, that makes life so much easier because you're not a fraud. You do have something. That means you go to events like this. I was asked to speak to J.P. Morgan, top 500 corporate people. And I said, this is kind of funny. What do you want me to say? And they said, whatever you want to say. I said, what I'd love to say is, how about a loan? Didn't work. But I did ask them, how many thought they were leaders? Very few. They hid behind other things. I'm a managing director. I'm a vice president. I'm the managing director and vice president. That's what they hid behind. And I said, you gotta be a leader. Because if you're not leading, who is? And Jamie Dimon, who was there, he had told me when I came in, he says, I'm gonna leave because I got a busy schedule. I said, yes, sir, you're the big kahuna and you're gonna leave. That's no problem. He was still sitting there. After everybody had left the room, he was still sitting there. He said, I've got to get my men and women who have been chosen for the skill sets they've demonstrated and their ability to perform, I've got to get them ready to jump up and grab this job and say, I'll lead it. Because one day he's going to go. And he or she who takes his place has to be a leader. And they have to know what they're talking about. Number 4, compassion. Why? These are not machines. And the way you have to look at it is the same fears each and every one of you have. The same concerns that came, worries, they have. And don't pretend you don't. Don't pretend you're not afraid. My daughter, Becky, brought that home to me. Although she's a wonder at lacrosse and a great leader in her own right, she, 37 years old, came down with breast cancer. And there was nothing I could do. And I said, I wish I could help, but I can't. And she taught me that it's okay to not be able to help. It's okay to be afraid. But don't worry, Dad, I can do this. And I had a dream that was just the opposite. Every night, for an hour or two, there was my daughter in her hospital bed, leaning forward saying, Daddy, which she doesn't call me, but in my dream she did, Daddy, can't you help me? She taught me it's okay to say no. It's okay to say, I can't. I don't know anything about it. This is for someone more skilled than a doctor or someone who understands this better than I do. But I will be there to catch you. That's all I can do. And that's important. You have to have the courage, the backbone, the knowledge, and everything to say, I can't do this. Let's get someone else. And she did. Clean bill of health. And the little thing I do know, she had her team from this school visit her. And if you can imagine young girls meeting someone, confronting the fear that hovers most in the back of their minds, because they know they can't do anything without someone's help. And she taught us all, it's okay. Okay? Now, last, humility. There's this concept, someone said, to be a leader, you got to be like Patton. I'm not sure that's leadership. I think it's a big mouth. And I think it's important that you just ooze humility, because you should be humble. And you stand in front like this group today, and if one of you were here now and you're talking to this group, you know that the kids you're teaching are the most important people on the planet to somebody. And some of you are really young. When I was given my company, they called me the old man. I was 24 years old. I said, can we come up with something else? No, you're the old man, be quiet. And that's something that's important. You have to understand that the job you're doing, the people you're teaching, the benefit of that particular gesture, not the kids so much, it's the people who believe in them. You're giving them something to believe in. You're proving their beliefs, that their kids are the most important thing in the world. You're learning that. And if you can just take what that skill set that you have to motivate people, then in fact, they will learn from you that you don't rub people's faces and things. You talk to people, you let them know you care. And yes, if I brought all the Vietnam veterans I know in here and they came down the hill, you would hear them say, "Welcome home, I love you," and start crying. That's what we do. Not very important, but it brings us together, and we can conquer anything when we're together. So I'd like to add a couple little things here that might go with what some of the other teachers were doing. Lauren Barris was the head of the University of Massachusetts network of colleges and universities. He taught at University of Massachusetts. He taught Far Eastern philosophy and religion. And Lauren resigned that post to write a book about Vietnam. Specifically, why do we get ourselves into those kinds of things? Which is a legitimate question, because we do it. And if we have a downtime, somehow we go find a war. And the military people aren't the ones who want to fight this war, trust me. They are the ones that have to execute it. And therefore, they're the ones most reserved in their approach to joining in a war. And he came up with, and the reason this is important, as you consider all these other things you're doing, I'd like you to get these 3 facts he said about us. One, he said, since Winthrop got on that boat, we always believe God's with us. Now, I checked with God, and she didn't tell me she was on anybody's particular side here. She said, you better get your act together, kid. But it's the truth. We do that. And if you're going to have spiritualism, if you're going to have faith, sometimes it's important to say, yeah, you're on your own here. You've been given all the blessings that God can give you. Use those blessings for good. Use those blessings to help mankind. And I'm not convinced that war is the best way to help mankind. But Winthrop said, don't worry. We're going there. Second thing he said is that we have values. No one else does. We are the ones with values. That's what's at stake. American values are at stake. Whoa! That's what we find out. And think about it. How often have you heard that? What's at stake in Cambodia? Oh, American values. What's at stake in Myanmar? Oh, American values. They've never been here, but our values are there. And the last one is that we have this solipsistic view of the world. I'm glad when I can get that out without stumbling. The solipsistic view of the world is that you believe that which you're seeing is yours. For instance, if we tear down that village, we tear down that city, that place will be in our image. That's why it's okay to say, we know what they need. By God, they're just like us. If I had done that with my men, my little 164, we would have probably all died. Because the key in these international things is to find out that which you do not know, that which is not part of your background. Try to understand it, which gives you a feeling for and an understanding of a combat zone. And less people will die because of that. That was Lauren Barrett's book. It's called Backfire. 67 pages of those three things and 150 anecdotal evidence that it's true. And the only reason I bring it up is you all were talking about this kind of thing, about people from a different land, about how we outreach to those people. And I want you to understand that there's a very simple guidebook to look at if you bump into this thing called war in your consideration of the world. Now, I'm going to make sure I don't do this. I wanted to tell you another thing that is critical. We got the 5 elements of that. The other thing that is important, if I brought in all the Medal of Honor recipients, all 72 of them, and you looked at them, you would say, wow, they're old. Yeah, we are. A vast majority of us are very old. And we have like 8 young kids. But you would look at them and you say they're old, and they look like all the other old people I know. They don't look differently. Why is that? Because we are the same as you. There's no difference. There's no magic to some person who receives the Medal of Honor. It's an award given on the basis it's pretty simple. If the person who's receiving that award had not done that which he did to get the medal, no one would think the lesser of it. Meaning, you don't have to go out and charge some barricade. It's not expected of you. In fact, probably wiser that you don't. So that's not what separates people. What separates people is that once in a lifetime, those people did something to challenge destiny. Elements of that in what you all were talking. These guys saw something in destiny and said, not today. They didn't do it the day before, didn't do it the day after, but just not today. No way, nothing. Changing it. Challenge destiny, and therefore challenge fate. If that's true, that means each person sitting next to someone in this room, if you look left and right, you're looking at someone who could be a Medal of Honor recipient. And guess what? So could you be. It's not something that's unique to these people. It's something that is buried in the hearts of each and every one of us. And that means if you treat me with the respect, I know what that means. I know, I have no delusions. It's this. But if I can do it, and you treat me with honor and politeness because I'm wearing this, but that only reflects what's in my heart and your heart, that means that when you sit and talk to someone, you could be standing and giving them a standing ovation the next day. Which means if we would just treat each other the way that hidden potential that resides in each and every one of us, as manifested by the 72 Medal of Honor recipients and countless other people who've received awards and honors. If we would just treat each other with that same politeness and dignity and civility, just think how much better off we would all be. A last thought, and this has been a thought, because I have to admit, I've never been to a group where I was saying, what am I supposed to say? My God, you teachers, hats off. I mean, you're just spectacular. And I wish I could bring troops in here and sit here and let you lecture them and talk to them about all the ideas you have. It's just wonderful. So one of the things I said, I know what I can do. I can do a little thing that means a lot to me to share with you, and that is, we have to start realizing what we have at our disposal to help other people with. Now, my wife will say, it's surely not all the stuff you collect, because we can't even give it away. It's not money, because sometimes you don't have any money, and we're wonders at having it, not having it, and having it again. So you can't be reliable. That's not the thing you have at your disposal to help people. The most important, most valuable thing you have, bar none, is your time. And too often, our time is far more finite than we would have it be. And I bring this up because you've seen the Budweiser ad, I'm sure on television, where the troops walk into the airport and they all clap. 13 seconds, so they sit back down and open up their New York Times or whatever it is. 13 seconds. That's how much time those people gave to those kids. 13 seconds. So why not, when you see these kids, and then eventually they don't have to be in uniform. You see someone who looks the same way, and you're seeing them in an airport and they're looking up at those screens, which I just flew in on from California, and I said, oh my God, they go on forever. These kids that are coming home from these war zones haven't been to airports. This is in many ways because they get on a military plane and they take them to the war zone, and then they put them on a civilian plane to go home. And they're in an airport looking for Ducktown, Tennessee, because that's where they've got to be. Because Mom told them, you get home by 7, everybody will be here to have dinner with you. And the kid's looking up there and says, I don't see Ducktown, Tennessee anywhere. And everybody's saying, thank you for your service, thank you for your service, and they're passing him by. Except for one lady says, where are you from? And the kid says, Ducktown, Tennessee. She says, well, that's too small to be on those things. What's the biggest city? Nashville. Nashville here. It doesn't say Nashville. This is NSDV or something. Because this is a place where they don't have a lot of space to write things. So that's where it is. It's in gate 32. Let's go. I'll take you there. Maybe we're getting to 3 minutes. I'll take you to your gate. You take he or her to the gate. You say to the gate attendant, they're back from Iraq and Afghanistan, or Niger, or wherever. Can you take care of them? Make sure all the things they might want to order, put it on me, I'll give you my credit card if you want. They'll say, no, we have that. We can do that for them. Now these kids are on a plane heading to where they're supposed to go because someone took 5 minutes. Instead of slapping them on the back, thank you for your service, ask them where you're from. And that led to a series of other questions and answers where you put someone on the plane going to the dinner that is the most important dinner they have ever had in their lives. And it cost you 5 minutes. I'd like you to take that message to wherever you can, to ask people, treat these kids with the respect and compassion that they deserve. And make sure, to the best of your ability, you have made their trips complete. It could be at a bus stop, it can be at a boat stop, it can be anywhere. You'll see them. And some of these young kids maybe aren't in the military. They may be like the group we saw this spring, getting ready to go in the military. And all it takes is, where are you from? And as you're talking about it, say, I really appreciate everything you've done for us. You got the same phrase out, you got that? You're going to take 5 minutes of your time, which I know is so valuable, that these kids will be able to get by and do that. So please, think of a little widening of the thank you for your service. Do that, and you will feel better. And that kid will be the proudest person at the table. God bless you all, and thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I told you, way better than me. Thank you. In every way. Kids are coming Wednesday. Be ready. Treat them with the dignity and respect that they deserve, and have faith that they're the person you want them to be. Faith in them. Faith in them. Have a great year, West Hartford.